What are the most important elements to preserving a mid-century modern house?
Well, don't paint the wood gray, I would say, would be the first.
Welcome back to the Modern Agent Podcast. My name is Logan Ricchetti with Modern Realty. This podcast is a combination of thoughts and opinions on the real estate market in Midland, Michigan with our local real estate agents from Modern Realty. Our mission is to create informed and confident buyer and seller clients, so tune in to learn more about Midland's real estate market. When you think about mid-century modern real estate in Midland, I think about Travis Fader. I think about you because you're the guy that knows everything about it. So how did you get started in real estate? And when you did, why did you decide to focus on mid-century modern style real estate specifically?
Yeah. Well, I got into real estate because of you, one, which we'll come back to. But really, mid-century architecture was really the focus for me. And it all started back when I went through an Alden Dow building for the first time and thought, what is this amazing, piece of art? And that was about, I'd say 15, 14 years ago. And since then, my passion and focus has been about promoting this architecture and helping people to obtain one and add it to their art collection, per se. And yeah.
So you started doing research about 15 years ago. You were a tour guide at one point?
Yeah, so the progression started, wow, what is this architecture? And then two, I need to learn everything I can about it. So I do a lot of research online to learn about primarily the local architects in Midland. And so I started there and I went to the Alden Dow Home and Studio, which is 20,000 square foot structure, which is comprised of Alden B. Dow's residential home and then his architectural firm. And it's a great place to learn more about his work and Midland's architecture as a whole. So I started volunteering there for a bit, and it was a really great experience, and spent a lot of time in the archives researching. And it just seemed like a natural progression to then take what is a passion of mine and then, find a way to help other people, obtain these great works of art.
So Midland has a lot of mid-century modern residential real estate.
Yeah.
It's a highly concentrated area of this.
Yeah.
Because of Dow and because of some other architects, right?
Yeah, it's considered the mecca of Midwestern, modern architecture. And that's because of Alden Dow. He initially went to school for engineering and after some time decided, nope, this is not what I'm passionate about. I really love design. And that really came from his parents, especially his dad. They loved gardens, and which is why Midland, has so many green spaces. And so Alden Dow took this passion and went to school for architecture, then studied with Frank Lloyd Wright for a period of 6 months, and then started his architectural firm in 1933. And it wasn't too long before they were a multi-million-dollar business. So it was a legit firm with incredible architects who came across the country to come work with Alden Dow. And I think one of the great things Alden did was he then said, hey, Jackson Hallett, Red Warner, I support you go out on your own and start a firm in Midland. So we had so many architectural firms. And because of that, we just have a great wealth of incredible structures.
For the layperson, define what a mid-century modern style actually is. What does that mean?
Yeah. Okay. So it really encompasses a broad range of styles, but I would say at its core, this era of design really put an emphasis on a new way of living, which really connected you with outdoors, right? So you'll have a lot of windows, a lot of glass, a lot of seamless transition between indoor and out. For example, you may have like a brick wall behind you that extends past the window, so it's reaching outside, so you don't have that separation of space and nature. And so that's really, I would say, at its core, what the architecture is.
What else? There's certain type of building materials that seem to be consistent. Blocks.
Yeah, blocks. Really natural materials. So you have a lot of wood. You'll have stone and things like that. Again, with the thought of bringing outdoors in and connecting with nature.
Is it true that there's Alden Dow formed blocks that only he used?
Yeah. So he was fascinated with this concept of using shapes and making building materials out of it, which I really think stems from one of his core philosophies, which was, do things with honesty, humility, and enthusiasm. So like playing with blocks really makes sense for him. And so he invented, with the help of Robert Goodall, he invented these rhomboid shapes. Mm-hmm. So they're not actually squares, they're rhomboid shapes comprised of concrete and leftover ash from the Dow Chemical Company.
Wow.
Mixed them together and created these incredible structures, which he didn't do too many of them. I think he did about 13, but...
Well, you can still see some of those out on West St. Andrews, Sugnet area, Sugnet? Is that where they are?
Actually, his first unit block structure was for the Heth family, and that is right there on West St. Andrews. And then he did one for a relative, Alden Hansen, and his family, and then he did another one for the Ball family. So those are the three that you see.
Right in that area?
Yep.
Where is the highest concentration of mid-century modern style houses in the city of Midland? Or are they just all over the place?
Yeah, they're all over the place. I would say probably the west side has the majority of them because that's the older part of town. And as Midland was developing, they were pushing that way in the 40s, 50s, 60s. The east side of Midland has more 70s and newer builds.
So like Applewood, Valley,
yep.
Those areas. Main Street has some.
Main Street, yep.
Mm-hmm. And then the ancillary streets over in that area
yep.
too.
West Sugnet, North Parkway, Berkshire, Sherwood, Crescent. I mean, there's a number on the west side of highly concentrated mid-century structures.
And you've sold a lot of those.
Yeah, I've had the pleasure of being a part of transactions and helping people connect with these homes. And the real joy for me is meeting interesting people from around the country. That's the other thing. Midland's becoming really known for its architecture and what a great community is to live. And so people are coming from all over the country, and it's been a real joy to be a part of that.
All right, so if you own a mid-century modern house and you want to sell it, I think it really does make a difference who you hire to help in the sale of that house, because you want somebody who really understands what they have and what the benefits and features of a home like this are. So is that right? I mean, if you own a mid-century modern house, is it important to work with you?
I think it's important if you value two things. If you value quality service and somebody who knows what they are helping you sell. Mm-hmm. And then the other thing is if you value preservation. So you want to work with somebody who understands, again, what the property is and the way to effectively market it to another steward who is more likely to maintain and preserve the property. So it's really key that people work with somebody who understands that.
Let's talk about preservation a little bit. What are the most important elements to preserving a mid-century modern house?
Well, don't paint the wood gray, I would say, would be the first. But really just appreciate what it is. Mm-hmm. If you think of the home as a piece of art, it will change your perspective. You'll start to notice the unique details and understand its purpose and its value.
You often see really heavy, thick doors on mid-century modern style houses, is that right?
Yes, yeah.
You see a lot of...
I have a 3-inch heavy solid wood front door in my place. Yep. Which is great.
You see those little tiles in the bathrooms? Tile patterns?
Yep.
Those are very distinct and very unique to mid-century modern style. Kind of those flat sinks that kind of level right into the counter. A lot of people do not think those are attractive. And a lot of other people think they are artwork. So it's a very interesting dynamic between the two types of buyers in the world. You either love mid-century modern style or you don't care for it. And I think that's very interesting. But I think over the last couple of years, specifically, like you're mentioning, there's been a lot more appreciation for what Midland has to offer in terms of its real estate housing stock with mid-century modern homes. They are truly beautiful pieces of artwork.
Yeah.
If you're interested in buying a mid-century modern style house in Midland, what are some things that you need to be looking for? And an agent like Travis, what are you gonna help a buyer look for and keep in mind?
Well, first we start with their criteria. So what interest in architecture do you have? Because again, this era encompasses a broad range of styles. So we talk about well-known architects like Frank Lloyd Wright, Eichler, different architects where we can associate, oh yeah, I like that style. So then we look at that style. We say, okay, in Midland, based on your likes or dislikes, you'll likely be interested in these architects. And then we go through some properties and we see, okay, what do we like about this? What don't we like? And then once we have our criteria sorted, we just wait. And when that property comes up, we work fast to get that.
Travis, you are uniquely positioned in that you know a lot of the mid-century modern homeowners in Midland because of the network that you have and the social media platforms that you have.
Mm-hmm. Well, and the mid-century world really acts as a community of friends who have, like-minded interests. And so because of that, I think that, again, we're uniquely positioned to know when things are moving or shifting. And a lot of times you find that, because it's art, people kind of like to experience a different form of art. So they kind of like decide they want to move and trade around. And so because of that and being in that community, we're more likely to know when things are moving.
Yeah, that's a big deal.
Which is helpful.
You also have a really interesting Instagram page. Tell us about that.
Yeah. So my branch under Modern Realty, Mid-Mod, Michigan. And it's all about promoting the architecture in the state. So we, while I'm primarily based in Midland, we help people across the state. So we have wonderful partners who understand architecture in the hotbeds of mid-century in the state. And so it's been a real pleasure and joy to help people connect with, other experts in certain regions that they want to buy, whether it's Kalamazoo, Grand Rapids, Ann Arbor, Detroit area, up north in Traverse City, which is another hotbed of architecture. We can help people connect with these places.
So basically what you're telling me is if anywhere in the state of Michigan, if you want to buy a mid-century modern style house, then the first step might be just to reach out to you, Travis, and then Travis will either help that buyer or connect that buyer with a realtor in the area that does understand and does specialize in the mid-century modern style so that that buyer is is very well represented in that transaction.
Exactly. Because again, the goal is to help clients find the piece of art they're looking for, right? And you can only do that if somebody is an expert in their area. And so we've done all the legwork finding these great experts, and then we just connect you with them in the hopes of finding your own wonderful place.
Well, you live in a mid-century modern house. What do you love about it? What makes it so special to actually be a homeowner of a mid-mod house?
Well, how much time do you have would be my first question, because I could talk about that for a while. But yeah, we've owned a couple of great pieces of art in Midland, but our current house is the Jackson B. Hallett house. So the architect Jackson Hallett, this was his personal property, and we had the wonderful real honor to purchase it from the Hallett family. And it's just been a joy preserving and maintaining the structure and living in such an interesting, and unique space.
What is it about a Red Warner home that gives it a signature? What styles or what unique elements did Red Warner really encompass?
So Red has won a lot of influences from Alden Dow, because he came to Midland specifically to work with Dow, which is great. And then he kind of branched off and went a different route. I would say his are probably more similar to what people would think of as Eichler homes. So post and beam construction, clean, minimalistic lines. However, Warner's are much warmer. So he has exposed wood throughout. One home I can think of is the Curran residence, which I had the pleasure of helping clients purchase. And the Curran residence is completely trimmed on the outside with redwood. It's beautiful. So I would say, yeah, his are very similar to Eichler, minimalistic, clean, but it's much warmer.
What about Jackson Hallett? What makes his different?
So Jackson Hallett, I would say, is much more. He really is heavily influenced by Alden Dow and this, Japanese influence of architecture. Also Frank Lloyd Wright's influence of architecture. So for the house that we own, which was his personal residence, the Hallett house, he designed a more Usonian style property. And yet he has his own unique elements. So he loves glass. He really loves to create interesting experiences in space, which was his tagline. So you'll come in from the large front door into a compressed space that then opens up into a vaulted ceiling. As an example, his primary residence is all based on a triangular grid. So all of the brick was custom made to have 60-degree angles and not 90-degree angles. So he creates really interesting, I would say, shapes and experiences.
What's the most popular or iconic mid-century modern style house in Midland?
Well, iconic, it would have to be the Alden Dow home and studio. That is just one of the greatest works of architecture, I think, certainly in our country, and if not in the world. It's an amazing place.
That's just off of Main Street.
Yeah, he designed it right off of Main Street and on Post Street, and it's nearly 20,000 square feet, comprised of his residential property and his architectural firm. And in the 80s, after he had passed, his wife, Veda, and their children turned it into an educational and research facility. So you can go and get tours. You can go and, by appointment, read in the archives and learn more about Alden's works, because there are over 20,000 items there, ranging from blueprints, correspondence, film, and photo. There's just a lot of great things. So I would say in Midland, certainly the Alden B. Dow home and studio is iconic. But that doesn't diminish any other property, because there are a lot of wonderful places.
All right, so if I want to buy or sell a mid-century modern house, I should just call you.
Yes. I would love to help.
Boom. Thanks for listening to another episode of the Modern Agent Podcast. Please follow at Modern Realty Midland on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. And if you need to buy or sell a house, please reach out to Modern Realty by going to www.modernrealty.us. Modern Realty, your home, our focus.